It's one of the most chilling mysteries of the ancient world that even today baffles modern historians. How was someone able to write a near-perfect description of the crucifixion of Jesus, centuries before Jesus was born, and a full 1,000 years before crucifixions even existed? In the year 1000 BC, a warrior poet sat down and wrote a song about a form of execution that hadn't been invented yet. He didn't describe a quick death by a sword or the crushing impact of a stone. Instead, he wrote a chilling, anatomically precise description of a slow, agonizing execution. A death where the victim's hands and feet are pierced, their bones are pulled out of joint, and a crowd gathers around to gamble for their clothes. It is a near-perfect description of Roman crucifixion. The only problem? Rome didn't exist yet, and the horrific punishment of the cross wouldn't be standardized for centuries. So, how did a man living in the early Iron Age write a song that perfectly mirrors the most famous execution in human history? To understand this, we have to look at the author. The man credited with this song is David. Today, he's remembered as a biblical hero, a giant killer, and a king. But the historical David lived a remarkably brutal life. He was a shepherd who defended his flocks against apex predators. He was an outlaw warlord surviving in the harsh Judean wilderness. He was a man intimately familiar with the brutal, violent realities of the ancient Near East. Yet, he was also a musician. And out of his turbulent life came a collection of poetry and songs. The most baffling of these is Psalm 22. Psalm 22 begins with a cry of absolute despair. My God, why have you forsaken me?" If you know the story of Jesus of Nazareth, you immediately recognize those words. It's exactly what Jesus screamed from the cross. But the connections go much, much deeper than a single quote. Read line by line, the ancient song reads like an eyewitness account of an execution. First, there is the psychological torture. The poet writes that he is surrounded by a mocking crowd. He says, "All who see me mock me. They hurl insults, shaking their heads. He trusts in the Lord," they say. "Let the Lord rescue him." Then comes the physical trauma. David describes a horrific bodily breakdown. "I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart has turned to wax. It has melted within me." This perfectly describes the severe physical stress and joint dislocation caused by hanging by the arms for hours, forcing the chest cavity into an unnatural, agonizing position. He describes extreme, desperate dehydration. "My mouth is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth." And then, the most striking detail of all. Verse 16 states, "Dogs surround me, a pack of villains encircles me. They pierce my hands and my feet." Finally, David notes the bizarre behavior of his executioners. He writes, "They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment." Crowds mocking, extreme dehydration, dislocated joints, hands and feet pierced, garments divided by a game of chance. This is a step-by-step description of a Roman crucifixion, but here's where historians actually struggle to explain. Stay with me. Psalm 22 was written around 1000 BC. Crucifixion, as a method of capital punishment, didn't exist. During David's time, the standard methods of execution in the Near East were stoning, the sword, or burning. Centuries later, the Assyrians and Persians began experimenting with impalement, essentially putting victims on large stakes. But it wasn't until around the 6th century BC, and later perfected and systemized by the Roman Empire, that the specific method of nailing a victim to a crossbeam through the hands and feet to induce slow asphyxiation was truly developed. This means David, the author of Psalm 22, described the mechanics of crucifixion up to 1,000 years before it became the terrifying hallmark of Roman justice. But what's often lost in the shocking details of the suffering is how the song actually ends. Psalm 22 does not end in a grave. Midway through the poem, the tone abruptly shifts. The victim, seemingly on the brink of death, is suddenly heard. The song transforms into a massive, triumphant victory march. David declares that because of what has happened, all the ends of the earth will remember and turn to the Lord. He states that future generations will be told about this event, proclaiming to a people yet unborn, "He has done it." Those are the last 4 words of Psalm 22, written in Hebrew, just 2 words in the original text. Now open John 19:30. The last words Jesus spoke from the cross, "It is finished." The same declaration, closing the same song, written 1,000 years apart. David didn't just write about the suffering. He wrote about the moment the debt was paid in full. Whether you view it as a chilling coincidence, a masterclass in ancient poetic empathy, or a piece of divine foresight, Psalm 22 remains one of the most fascinating historical mysteries of the ancient world. A song of death, written in the Iron Age, that somehow perfectly captured the execution that would change the world. This wasn't an accident. It was a message across time. I want to hear from you. When you see evidence this specific, how does it change how you look at the cross? Is this a coincidence, or is it proof of a grander plan?